the University of Tasmania. Professor Chen, good morning.
Good morning.
So what do you make
for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. What do you make of this announcement by UMNO? I mean, given the fact that there have been concessions. We had the cabinet reshuffle. We had news earlier as well that Parliament would, at least the two houses would convene in some form.
Yes, well, I think the first thing to take note of is that let's not get too excited. One of the important things to remember is that early this morning's press conference by Zahid Hamidi was really the first move in the opening of a chess game. We know that last night's meeting, UMNO was really split down the middle. There was a sizable group, in fact, a larger group that did not agree with Zahid's approach on pulling down the government immediately or withdrawing from the government. So it's very much a first move. So I don't think people should get too excited over this. What I will say is this, that basically what happened last night was basically Muhyiddin is sort of opening his big guns by giving UMNO the deputy prime ministership and elevating one of the other UMNO ministers to be one of the senior ministers. He's hoping that these two chaps, Ismail Sabri and Hishamuddin, will become his champions inside UMNO to make sure that UMNO does not pull down his government. Whether that will work or not remains to be seen. But what we know is that there's going to be a lot of horse trading between now and end of July when Parliament will sit. And it is not too clear at the present moment which side has the upper hand.
All right. UMNO now wants Prime Minister Muhyiddin to step down as Prime Minister. How likely is that to happen?
The chances of Muhyiddin stepping down is almost zero or less than zero. I think your listeners need to understand that Bersatu is really a shell of a party, and that if they don't control the office of the Prime Minister, the party will not last. They understand this, so that's the reason why they're going all out to hang on to power, and the only way to hang on to power is to hold on to the office of the Prime Minister. So there's no way Muhyiddin will resign.
So, Prof. Chin, what you seem to be suggesting, from what you've said so far, is that this appears to be some sort of a bargaining ploy, a bit of horse trading going on, and something that will continue until UMNO is satisfied with the power sharing arrangement. And not necessarily unhappy if Muhyiddin does continue as the Prime Minister. Am I right to say that?
No, what I said was that last night was just the opening move in a chess game.
Yep.
So basically, UMNO is now completely split between two groups.
Yep.
The larger group is the group that wants to stay in government. The second group is basically led by Najib Razak, the former Prime Minister, and Zahid, the current president. And they want to pull down the government immediately and install a interim government.
Okay.
Now, one of the interesting things he said was that we want an interim government, and we want the interim government to be led by UMNO. So this gives you a very clear indication that he's sort of up the ante and that he's sending a message to the people in government, basically the UMNO minister who are refusing to step down. He's saying that you guys are very silly to take on the number 2 position when in fact we could take over the entire government and we have a chance to be number 1.
Okay, I understand now. Okay, meantime though, we haven't heard from the other parties. We haven't heard from PAS. We haven't heard from Dr. M for some time now. I mean, does this actually, this dramatic turn, if you like, of events mean anything for them?
So basically, PAS is no longer a player in this game. People think that PAS is just too, how should I put it, for lack of a better word, they've thought none of the ministers are really performing in government. The PAS leader is sick most of the time, and he's been making crazy statements on Twitter, so people don't take them too seriously. But in terms of Mahathir, I think the general consensus in Malaysia is that a lot of the current crisis that Malaysia is facing can be traced back to the fact that he resigned in February 2020 last year. If he had not resigned, we wouldn't be facing the sort of mess that Malaysia is facing. So a lot of people are blaming him for the mess. So that's the reason why he's keeping a very low profile now.
Prof. Chin, you alluded to that definitely in an article that you wrote for CNA938 just a couple of days ago. You also talked about what could be next for Malaysia's political landscape in terms of scenarios and the possibilities of who might fill the position of Prime Minister in the future. Talk to us about this.
Sure. So in case of scenario, it's basically quite simple. Basically, everybody is looking for a new model. When I talk about new model, it's basically a new model of coalition who's going to be part of the coalition. So basically, both sides are trying to stitch together. So a lot of horse trading. For Muhyiddin, the most important thing is that he has to bring over more MPs on the opposition side in order to build a buffer. Right now, he doesn't really have a buffer. The thought in Kuala Lumpur is that he has a majority of maybe 2 or 3 seats. So this puts him in a very dangerous position. If he can bring more defections over, he'll probably be much safer. On UMNO side, especially under Zahid, they can always do a turnaround and cut a deal with PKR on the opposition, on the understanding that, we'll form a unity government with UMNO in charge.
Okay.
But the reality is, Malaysians are totally fed up. They think this is all about musical chairs. Politicians are only worried about themselves while the country is going down the drain.
When you say Malaysians are fed up, do you mean they're fed up with all parties, UMNO included, or is it just UMNO and Dr. M that they're particularly dissatisfied with?
They are completely fed up with the entire political class. Because you have to remember, the 2 biggest things at the back of their mind is the pandemic. I'm sure it's the same in Singapore. Secondly is the condition of the Malaysian economy. So Malaysia is going through a very, very difficult time in the economy. And you can tell this easily by the fact that in Malaysia, we have a thing called the white flag campaign. So people are flying white flags outside their houses. And the white flag symbolizes that you need help, especially you don't have enough food. So you will see that, it's quite interesting. Even if you go to major suburbs in Kuala Lumpur where the middle class are, you find that a lot of the houses are flying white flags. So this gives you an indication of how bad the situation is.
Prof. Chin, it seems UMNO's beef, of course, with Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin is, sort of holding him accountable for sadness and depression among Malaysians at present. I know this seems to be a bit of a soft accusation, but it really has some long-lasting effects, doesn't it?
Yes, but you have to remember, people also understand that one of the reasons why Zahid and Najib are so angry was because when they helped form the government in February last year, the unwritten understanding was that the new government will intervene in the corruption cases involving Zahid, Najib, and members of the previous administration. The reason why they really need the government to intervene is if they are found guilty, all of them are facing multiple charges. So any guilty verdict on any one of the charges, they will lose their status as an MP. And more seriously, not only do they lose their status as an MP, they can't contest in the next general election. So it is effectively the end of their political career. So that's the reason why they're fighting for their political lives now.
All right. Professor Chin, thank you very much. Very